Hello everyone, it's Paola and welcome to a reading vlog. So a couple of weeks before I decided to go forward with my Conquering My TBR series, I decided to try Kindle Unlimited. However, as you can probably tell by how many videos I put out in April, I was really busy and had little time to read. So on the last couple of days of my free trial and also the Riveted Lit Free Reads April selection featured two books that I really wanted to read, I decided to sit down and read as much as I could. So let's get started. Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Mcguire was my first KU read. This is a YA fantasy about Nancy, a girl who went to the underworld and now she's back. To cope, her parents sent her to Eleanor West's home for wayward children, where she soon becomes the prime suspect in the murder of her roommate. This was short and a little bit dark, but it was such a worthy experience. I highly recommend this one. Here are some of my favorite quotes. There was still something unfinished around her eyes. She wasn't done yet. She was a story, not an epilogue. Now I know that if you open the right door at the right time, you might finally find a place where you belong. Their love wanted to fix her and refused to see that she wasn't broken. You're nobody's rainbow, you're nobody's princess, you're nobody's doorway but your own, and the only one who gets to tell you how your story ends is you. Turtles Under Eyes by Julia del Rosario. This was a riveted lit read. This is a YA hard-hitting contemporary about Ro, who is navigating questions of grief, identity, and guilt after her sister's mysterious disappearance. This book had me crying from beginning to end. It's a very emotional read, but it's so worth it. If you like Elizabeth Acevedo's books, you might enjoy this one. Here are some of my favorite quotes. Because like snowstorms and earthquakes and death, your future will happen regardless of whether you planned for it. She wasn't a mystery or a rumor or a quiet girl who sat in the back of class. She was my sister, and that's all I could see in the vacated space, a shadow once occupied by my sister. But time didn't stop. The world didn't slow down with me. It kept on plowing ahead. Friendships are like plants. They require care and watering. There was no right time for my mother to die, because when someone we love dies, it will always be untimely. Redbone, the true story of a Native American rock band. This was written by Christian Stabler and Sonia Paolini and illustrated by Thibault Balahi. This was my second KU read, and it's an incredible graphic novel about Redbone. The blurb says, experience the riveting, powerful story of the Native American civil rights movement and the resulting struggle for identity, told through the high-flying career of West Coast rock and roll pioneers, Redbone. This was a lot of fun, and as someone who had no idea who this band was, I found it fascinating. Both the art and the story alike are incredible. And also, if you're a Marvel fan, you might have heard their hit song, Come and Get Your Love, in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy. Please give this book a shot. It is so absolutely 100% worth it. The Caiman. This was written by Maria Eugenia Manrique, illustrated by Ramon Paris, and translated by Amy Brill. This was my third KU read, and it's a picture book. It was first published in Venezuela, and it is the true story of a man who adopted a little caiman. They became friends, and it's kind of like the movie Hachi. So if you like that movie, the movie with Richard Gere, this might be the book for you. Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. This was my fourth KU read, and it is the author's graphic memoir. It is 100% worth the read. It's raw, emotional, angsty, everything the author felt, I felt too. And the blurb says, Started as a way to explain to her family what it means to be non-binary and asexual, Genderqueer is more than a personal story. It is a useful and touching guide on gender identity, what it means. Highly recommend this one too. Soaring Earth by Margarita Engel. This was a riveted lit read, and it is the author's memoir where she recounts her teenage years during the 1960s. I don't even know how to describe what this book made me feel. It's another very raw and emotional read, and one I would definitely recommend to anyone and everyone. These are my favorite quotes. I long to fall in love, believe in love, convince myself that I'm capable of love. I ditch school, hiding in the park. It will be a relief to open the yearbook and see my absence from predictions that divide and compare girls. Cutest, coolest, most likely to succeed as a movie star. Someday, when all of us are old, this yearbook will prove that I really was invisible. I'll never look at a guy again, not when there's so great a chance that he'll die in Vietnam, or stay, and overdose. Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shannon Mcguire. This was my 5th KU read. It is the 2nd installment in the Wayward Children series. It's a prequel to Every Heart a Doorway, and it tells the story of Jack and Jill. Their world is called the Moors, and it's a little bit like Dracula versus Dr. Frankenstein. This one I think is darker than Nancy's story, and it also hit me harder. Maybe because of the sister aspect that it had going on. It felt very gloomy, very gothic, and I loved it. These are my favorite quotes. It can be easy, in the end, to forget that children are people, and that people will do what people will do. The consequences be damned. There will come a day when you're all either of you has, was what she always said when one of them fussed about the other getting something. Hold to that. Having half of everything she wanted denied to her for so long had left her vulnerable to them. They were the forbidden fruit, and like all forbidden things, even the promise of them was delicious. The Tycoon Socialite Bride by Tracy Livesay. This was my final KU read, and it is a marriage of convenience love story between Marcus and Paola. Marcus is a quote-unquote self-made real estate tycoon, and he wants to avenge his mother by buying a hotel that is owned by the guy who mistreated his mother. And Paola comes from old money, and she wants to save the building where the women's shelter that helped her a year ago is located. And that building is owned by Marcus's company. This is short, sweet, and smutty. Another book I highly recommend. Here are my favorite quotes. Making the right decision isn't easy, especially when no one around you understands why you're doing it. We are not mirrors of your eternal youth. Saying the words aloud excited Paola, and she could feel warmth pooling between her thighs. This time, she wasn't the overwhelmed seducee. She was the seductress. And that's it. That is my weekend and a Monday worth of reading, my Kindle Unlimited books, as well as some free reads available on the Riveted Lit site. Definitely let me know if you've already checked out some of these, and if you haven't, I recommend any and all of them. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in another one.